Welcome to the Lightforge. This is ADWCTA.
This is Merps.
And we are coming from you live from not BlizzCon, but right after BlizzCon.
Right after.
Right
wow.
after BlizzCon.
That was a very sleepy flight.
Oh my god. I was asleep before I was on the flight. I was asleep throughout the whole flight. I don't know what happened in the last 10 hours. I have no memory.
I did find time to watch a movie in between. I watched Finding Dory.
Very good movie. How are you awake?
So, yeah, I had to eat on the flight as well, so I was like, might as well watch a movie while I fly.
I skipped the meal. I ate food when I got back. So, if you guys don't know, we were at BlizzCon, and BlizzCon just happened. So, that was like Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And then Saturday night, we had a flight at 6 a.m. to get out of LAX and Anaheim, which is where BlizzCon is like an hour and a half away from LAX airport. So we just did not sleep. We were just out, we were hanging out with Ratsma, with Pterodactyls, with some other people, everybody basically at the Twitch party. Before that, and then we hopped directly from that to packing to getting to the airport. And now we're here, and we did all of that, and we scheduled it all like that, all on purpose, so we can be here and do a live Lightforge right after BlizzCon, because we didn't want to carry all our equipment in to actually do this at BlizzCon. And it's Sunday anyway. This is great. So, BlizzCon, what happened at BlizzCon? Let's start there. When it comes to Hearthstone, what happened at BlizzCon? Lots of other stuff happened.
Hearthstone. Okay, so we're just going to be talking about Hearthstone because this is a Hearthstone podcast, and I guess we'll talk about the other stuff later. But
is this one it's all staticky, and then Sombra hacks us and tells us she's going to be in Hearthstone too?
Oh no, what's happening? Yes. We might not pull off the pyrotechnics as well as Blizzard did in our Sombra reveal, but Mean Streets of Gadgetzan is the new expansion that is coming up. It has also been revealed that it is coming early next month, so it won't be like last year in which they announced the expansion and then they basically said it's coming out on Thursday. So no, we have Mean Streets of Gadgetzan.
Called the exact release date. We called it last week. Not that it was hard to call, but
no.
I want whatever credit that comes with that.
It is Mean Streets of Gadgetzan. This is a full expansion with card packs instead of adventures. So much
and
like
more cards than Old Gods. Old Gods had 130 cards, and only 100 of them made it to the arena because of Cthulhu. This is going to be I think the number they released is 150 something, but it's more than Old Gods period. And there's no cards that we know of that are going to be just taken out of the arena from the get-go. So this is a massive influx of cards that will change the way that will change the makeup of the arena pool. And especially with some of the cards that have been removed from the arena, it has even bigger impact. This could have, I don't know, as much impact as TGT, but definitely more than OG, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It's pretty exciting, just because this is going to, we knew going into it, this is going to be the first expansion in which it is not an adventure, and it is also not them using the expansion to purely expand constructed, right? Which is what they did with the Old Gods, because then they moved into standard, and that they're focusing on these Old Gods and stuff as well, which really has no implications for arena. So we basically waited 2 entire expansions for them to have a quote, normal size pack expansion, and here we have it.
Mean Streets of Gadgetzan. So besides having a really catchy song that we were playing in the intro to this whole live stream, what is it? What is it about Streets of Gadgetzan? What is the premise of it? Okay,
so apparently, Gadgetzan is this town in WoW or Warcraft universe, and
you sound very excited about this.
It got really popular, and then with the popularity came seediness, and that's where we are.
That's actually probably a very nice, concise summary of it. I think you did. Yeah, I think you did a very good job of it. Just not very enthusiastic about it. Okay.
I don't know.
So the Hearthstone does a lot of parodies on whatever stuff. It's a reimagining of the WoW world or whatever. I'm not going to go into the WoW lore of what's supposed to happen in Gadgetzan. But the whole idea is that you're in the city environment, and the city has like a lot of like gangs and a lot of like like the underworld of crime and other things that probably go on the gray area or the black market. And so you have these three factions that are vying for control of Gadgetzan, and there's like, so I don't know if this was just like a BlizzCon thing, but there were like legit like people, like characters that would like tell you stuff and like taunt each other when that was happening, in the same way that like you would in an adventure, right? Like League of Explorers. Think back to League of Explorers. Think Karazhan. It's like that. Like in OG, you never had like any of the gods pop out to like say stuff. So maybe they programmed it in just for BlizzCon, but I think there may be some kind of interaction going into like the real game as well. Or maybe like there's going to be some like promotional thing there or something, or maybe they really did just program all that in for BlizzCon, but that seems like a waste. Anyway, so we have three gangs, and this is tied in with the new core mechanic. So all these large packs have like some core mechanic, or they used to, I guess. TGT had Inspire, which was game changing, and then OG had Taunt, which we've seen before, but it was like really like a whole ton of taunt in a way that really changed the meta, even though it was an old mechanic. And Mean Streets of Gadgetzan, the mechanic that they're featuring right off the bat is this thing called tri-class cards. You want to talk a little bit about the tri-class cards?
Sure. So we basically have these three gangs, and these three gangs, basically each gang sort of collects three of the Hearthstone classes underneath it, right? And then, so what it means is that any three of these classes can use these, like the card from their specific gang or clan. And then because there's usually discover mechanics involved with these cards, any of those classes can discover from within their clan, essentially. So basically, one grouping is going to be Hunter, Warrior, and Paladin, right? And they're the grimy goons. So whenever you have a grimy goon card, you can use it in any of the three classes. And when you discover, you're going to be able to discover from any of those classes as well. So this is not just a categorization of hunters being hunters anymore. Now it's like hunters, and then on a larger scale, grimy goons.
Yep, grimy goons. So the three I guess gangs are the grimy goons, who are what I would think is more like what you think of like as an Irish gang, the way they're like the art style and everything's kind of set up. Then you have the Jade Lotus, which is like the Asian gang, like maybe like the Triad. And then you have the Cabal, which is like some magical like drug users, like I don't know. The Cabal. What? Well, they make potions, and they got kicked out of their like mage things for making potions that other people didn't like. That sounds to me like they're like drug dealers, okay? So, and the potions are awesome if you played with the potions. I could totally see why they outlawed these potions. They're totally OP. So the Cabal.
The only reason they outlaw drugs in the Hearthstone world is because the drugs are too awesome.
Yes, it sends a really good message to the kids. So the Cabal is Mage, Priest, and Warlock. Those are the magic users. And the Jade Lotus are Druid, Rogue, and Shaman. They're people from generally like outside of the order, like the typical order of things. They're more like shamans and druids, right, with like nature. Like they follow their own rules. And then the grimy goons are hunters, paladin, warrior, more I guess physical kind of like classes, right? For the muscle. So those are the tri-class cards, and this is the new mechanic. Now, arena-wise, what impact will this have?
I mean,
don't sugarcoat it.
So much in terms.
I know
of
we just met a lot of cool people from Blizzard, including some developers. We talked a lot with Ixar. It was great, but let's be honest here. What arena impact are the tri cards going to have?
I mean, look, you're going to be able to find cars from other classes, but we have those mechanics already, right? This is much like these cars are going to be much cooler, I think, in terms of constructed, right? Where you can choose what cards you put in and blah blah blah. Here, you're basically just treating Grimy Goons as a class card, and it just so happens that you get it as another class card, right?
Yeah.
Um,
And I
so
think
that's
something
basically it.
you kind of touched upon it in the beginning, but there's only 9 cards. There's only 3 per gang. Like they featured these gangs like they were such a big part of this expansion, and there's literally 3 cards out of like the 150 for each of these gangs, and one of them's a legendary. So really, presume the legendary card doesn't exist. Now you only have 6 cards, and one's a rare, and the other one we suspect that it's going to be an epic, but maybe it's common, maybe it's another rare. But it's just not going to affect the arena. And to the extent that it affects the arena, we're going to go and like actually go through all the gang cards that we know of, all the tri cards that we know of. They're not terribly like creative, like past the point of, oh look, this is a way to bring 3 classes together and tie them together. So let's take a look at these cards, and you'll see what, if you haven't been like looking at the new card reveals, you'll see what we mean by they're not high impact kind of cards. So the first one revealed is from the Grimy Goons. It's a 2-mana 1/1 with a battle cry that says discover a hunter, paladin, or warrior card. It's a Grime Street informant. The art is cool, the concept is cool, but what is it?
So, something important to note now that you guys are like sort of looking at these cards, whenever they say discover a hunter, paladin, or warrior card, you always get 1 card from each class. Yeah. So it'll always be 1 hunter card, 1 paladin card, or 1 warrior card. But this is basically just another discover mechanic,
yep.
Right? Another discover mechanic, and it is great because it is going to be good because class cards are usually good. Right,
yes.
And you're guaranteed to get a class card. Cross-class synergies are going to be pretty strong lots of times because there's a reason that they don't give other classes like certain cards.
And more importantly, I think it's unpredictable, right?
Yeah, it's very unpredictable. It has that swashbuckler effect that you just don't know, and you're not exactly sure what's
more than the swashbuckler. You know what class the swashbuckler is getting a card from.
Right.
You don't know now. Like, whatever reads you could have from before and that you're playing around, even with swashbuckler, which like kind of upends your expectations, but still you just replace them with a new set of expectations. Now you're going to have to juggle 3 different classes. Like, it gets very messy.
Yeah, that's why, like, I don't love stuff like this. I really like Discover, and I think it gives sort of more control to players, which is fantastic. But at the same time, this there's no way you can predict what card this is now.
No. Like this is Discover's RNG, but controlled RNG. This is also controlled RNG, but it takes away skill in the sense of, well, I don't know if it takes away skill, but it makes the skill like a lot less applicable because you dilute the impact of your read every time you add something to this. So, and they're random still, right? So now you're getting 1 random card from each class. It's not like you can make a good read on a Discover card generally to begin with. Well, now you can make like a way worse read. So on the side of the player playing it, it's the same kind of skill, but on the side of the person who it's played against, it's a lower skill impact. So it's not the best, but yeah, I mean, it's like a Jeweled Scarab, right? 2 mana, 1/1, discover a card, except instead of discover a 3-cost card, it's an any cost card, which makes it better than a Jeweled Scarab. Except, in certain classes where like 3 mana cards are like insanely good, but generally it's going to be a better card.
Right. Part of the reason why people like Jeweled Scarab as a concept is not just because of its discover mechanic. It's because when you are the person playing the Jeweled Scarab, you know pretty much what you're going for,
yep.
Right? Like stuff like, oh man, I need some reach, like Wolf Rider. What's my percent chance to get that? What's my percent chance to get, like a Shadow Bolt, or if you're Deadly Shot, Hex, like all this stuff.
Yep.
Like maybe you should go for it.
And it's usually not a particular card. It's sometimes like a class of cards, like how much,
right.
What's the chances like you get reach or a buff or a drop?
Sure. And then when you're on the other side, there's only a certain amount of cards that you find really dangerous, right? Like let's say you're facing Hunter and they have quite a few good cards at the 3 slot. You're like,
Yes.
okay, well, let's test for Deadly Shot, Power Shot, and
I'm surprised you
Unleash,
brought up
and
Hunter
Kill Command.
instead of, Paladin.
Paladin, sure, we could do that too. But with these classes, you're like, okay, I have certain cards that I might fear, and let's cross them out. And then after that, I don't care if they play like a 3 mana 3/4, 3 mana 3/3. Like it doesn't
Right.
really matter, right?
No.
So that gives the player control, and it also gives your opponent the ability to check those things off, make counter plays. So you really can't do that with Grime Street Informant. It's just not
But
possible.
the card is
Yeah.
better. The card is
It is.
better because it's
Yeah.
more than 3 mana, and when you're discovering cards, as in whenever you draw a card, you want to draw a bigger card because you're already pushing later in the game and you're already anti-tempoing yourself. So you're already not going for like the super super fast push. So this is going to be like questionably in Paladin if it's better than Jeweled Scarab, just because Paladin has Muster for Battle and Coghammer at 3, not to mention other good 3-cost cards as well. But for the other 2 classes, I think it'll definitely be better than Scarab. Which means Scarab is very playable, right? Even though the Blizzard stats that it was the like second most drafted card is kind of misleading, it's still good, right? It's still above average, so you're going to play it, and with an offering bonus, you're going to see it a lot. So, and because it's a tri-class card, you're going to see it for 3 classes, which doesn't quite make it a neutral, but it's up there, right? It's not just like a class card that's above average. Its impact is going to be somewhere between a neutral card that's above average and a class card that's above average. Which means, like, I know people are looking at it, and we've mentioned it before, right? There's just not a lot of tri-class cards, but you are going to see them because of the expected offering bonus. By the way, we still fully expect, we have no inside information on this, but we still fully expect that the arena is going to release with an offering bonus, and they'll take the offering bonus away at some point. So in the offering bonus period, which is what we're going to call the MSG meta, in that meta, you're going to see plenty of these gang cards because of the offering bonus, and because this is a good card. It's not great, but it's good, and it has 3 classes, so you're going to see it in 3 different classes. Okay, let's go to the next one, which is the Cabal. This is the Cabal Courier. Battle Cry, discover a Mage, Priest, Warlock card. 3 mana, 2/2. Same concept. Instead of a 2 mana 1/1, it's a 3 mana 2/2. I don't know that there's all that much to say about it.
Like statistically, this is or like if you just look at stats and everything, you'd prefer the Grime Street Informant to the Cabal Courier, right? Like because if the main aspect is to draw, I want the cheaper card. If all I want is to draw,
Oh, but you
both,
also have a body. It's both.
you also have the body,
You
but like
always care a little bit about tempo, at least.
yeah, but I mean it's so small in comparison.
You get what you would normally get for 1 mana.
Sure, you get what you get for 1 mana, but because it's always like under, it's always going to be below what you should get, like significantly below what you should get for the mana cost, right?
Right.
So I would like if it's the cycle, then I just want the cheaper cycle.
I mean, generally, and you see this valuation in our tier list too. If you have like a 2 mana 1/1 draw card, it's going to be better than a 3 mana 2/2 draw card, which is going to be better than a 4 mana 3/3 draw card, like by a little bit. Like, because at some point you weigh the flexibility with the fact that you're just getting a bigger card, which is better for card advantage, and they're both equally bad for tempo essentially. So you're trading away some flexibility for the card advantage in there, right? Like think about Azure Drake. Why is Azure Drake at all a good card? And people argue with us that it's like a way better card than we rate it these days, but it's not for this reason: is that it's kind of awkward to play these days. And that's a 5 mana 4/4, which is just 2 more mana than this, applying the same kind of like formula.
Yep.
So Cabal Courier, kind of the same deal. These are not like terribly new and engaging cards, like we said, right? This is not something in the arena that will change the world, but you will see them. So it does add a bit of Karazhan flavor to it. And then the Jade Lotus card is a Lotus Agents. Apparently there's multiple of them. They look like they are pandas. They look like they're Pandarian ninjas. And it's a 5 mana 5/3, which is an unfortunate stat distribution instead of a 5 mana 4/4 like an Azure Drake. And Battlecry, discover a Druid, Rogue, or Shaman card. So again, this one's going to be the worst of the three, because it has the worst stat line. You don't want that distribution, 5/3 at the 5 mana slot, and also it's the highest mana cost, and you don't want that. So those are the three tri-class cards that we know of that's not legendary, and like they're fine cards, just like as a mechanic. If this is the core mechanic of MSG, it's going to be disappointing from an arena perspective, because you're just essentially adding cards that we've already seen before, like with a very slight twist that doesn't really affect gameplay.
Yeah, I think these cards are going to be fun to use. We haven't seen the rest though. Like they could have a kind of a
There's
cool.
only 3 more.
Yeah, but it might not just be discover. It might just be like I'm not creative enough to think of
Summon
anything.
a random minion from the other class.
Right, sure, like something like that too. Or you just are able to interact with your with other classes and not just like discover their cards.
Borrow their
Right?
hero power. Huh? That
Yeah,
could be good.
yeah, that's true. You could borrow their hero power
But
too.
it's going to be epic. Like, you're not going to see it in the arena anyway.
Right. We don't know the common ones right now though. Right?
There is no common one. I think it's going to be rare, epic, legendary.
Really? Huh.
It could be common, rare, legendary. But one's a legendary. Unless you... Because they... Okay, so the reason we know one's a legendary is because they basically told us there's a legendary boss on top of each of them, right? And they showed us Kazakus.
Yeah.
So we know there's going to be, like, the gang boss for each of these, and they're going to be legendaries. So that's not going to affect the arena in any way. And then the other one is going to be either epic or a common. And they already showed Grime Street Informant. Like, that's what makes me think the other ones are going to be epic.
Yeah.
Like, how much more of a common card can you need for Grime Street Informant? Right? Like, it's a Jeweled Scarab. The Jeweled Scarab is a common, and it's a grunt. It's like literally the lowest rung of the ladder for this gang. And you're making it a rare. So it makes me think that the next tier, like, flavor-wise, is going to be, like, bigger and, like, you know, more rare.
I could see that. All right.
Okay, so that's it for the tri-class cards. The one thing I will say about MSG that I really like is that we're going back to the 3-letter system for acronyms. It's MSG. I feel so much more comfortable saying MSG, GVG, TGT, LOE, BRM than I do saying like Kara or like OG. OG felt so weird. So I'm glad that we're back to MSG. And it's MSG. Who doesn't like MSG? It's chemically engineered for us to like.
It's quite tasty.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Are we moving on to the second topic?
What's the second topic?
Our new holy overlords that are coming very
Our
soon.
new arena overlords. Okay, so we were at BlizzCon watching this unveil live, and basically we're very hyped, you know, because we're mostly there for the Hearthstone stuff. And as they were releasing the cards, we're like, okay, this is good. All right, this is good. And then we would say, holy crap, does that say what I think it does? Hold on. Really? Like, let me check my glasses. Oh my god. And then we had like a couple more cards. We're like, okay, that's a card. It's a Hearthstone card. And then we would go crazy again. And every time, like, the whole crowd, it's electric. It's electric at BlizzCon. You have like just like 25,000 people crammed into like a giant room watching like people reveal these cards. And every card that was revealed that was like absolutely crazy, that was not a legendary, was a priest card.
Yeah, and you know, there's got to be a reason that they have revealed a lot of priest cards and not a lot of other class cards.
Let's just go over what class cards they've revealed that are non-legendary. Okay, non-legendary, we'll just say commons and rares. 1 from Druid, none from Hunter, none from Mage, 1 from Paladin, 4 from Priest, 1 from Rogue, none from Shaman, none from Warlock, 1 from Warrior. You see a pattern here?
They really want you to look at Priest and be like, "Behold, this is what you have asked for. Now cower in fear." Yeah.
I mean, we all know that this was going to be the expansion for the Priest, right? We had the expansion for the Warrior in LoE, where they forced Warriors back into the meta. We had Shamans being saved in OG, where they got, 4 mana 7/7s, no big deal. And then we had Hunters saved, kind of like a good attempt at saving the Hunter, I would say. I very much appreciate that attempt because it was in the right direction with the Kindly Grandmother and the, I don't even remember the thing's name, the 3 mana 3/4 secret person.
Huh? Oh,
the Hunter common 3 mana 3/4. I'm blanking on the name.
Cloaked Huntress.
Cloaked Huntress, there we go. Like those were very good for the Hunter. And so Priest got left behind, and Priest was left behind in Constructed too, apparently, which was a very clear indication that they were definitely going to come out with some OP cards for Priest. And they did. The Year of the Priest will conclude with the Priest on top. So without further ado, we are going to tell you the Priest cards. But before I tell you this, let me just say I tweeted this out probably after having 15 minutes to look at these cards without any regard for what the mage is going to get or what the unrevealed 2 Priest common / rares are going to be. Priest is going to be the best class in the arena when all the dust settles in the MSG meta when the offering bonus is happening.
This is when/if the offering bonus occurs.
Assuming the offering bonus is happening.
Otherwise, it will not be the best class.
And also assuming that they don't take away cards from the mage or something, right? Like if they rebalance the mage the same way they balance everything else by taking away Shatter and all those other cards, maybe. But other than that, the Priest is going to go from the bottom to the top. From the very bottom, which is where they are now, to beating the mage. And that's something that's never been done before, right? We kept talking about the stale arena meta in terms of class balance, which is mage always on top, then you have rogue always on top-ish, paladin floats around there, and shaman peeks in every now and then, right? And that's kind of your meta. Warlocks kind of made a brief appearance there at some point. I would argue druid gets there at some points, but generally no. It's been like that for 2.5 years. Well, this is going to shake things up. Priest is going to rocket to the top, where mage is probably higher. So, okay. The 2 common cards. Let's start with the one that will change the entire game in a really stupid way.
You mean both of them?
I love how you're like, wait, come on, you got to give me another clue here. We got 2 of them.
No, I mean, you're talking about Potion of Madness, but Cabal Talon Priest is also game-changing.
I was actually talking about Cabal Talon Priest. So that gives you an idea of just how stupid both of these cards are. We're thinking of different, completely, just... This is when we first saw, what do you call it? The Warrior 1 mana guy that gives you the 1/1 weapon, the pirate, Nazatha's first mate. It's that's one of those stupid cards that shouldn't exist.
So, okay, if you want to talk about Cabal Talon Priest, people are aware of Dark Cultist, right? And sometimes Dark Cultist will be better than this, on empty board. But I would say 80% of the time, this is better than a Dark Cultist, right?
Much better. And so much better.
Compare this with something like Temple Enforcer, in which we all know is a very good card.
How about we say what this is first?
Sure.
Cabal Talon Priest is a 3 mana 3/4 common priest class card with the battle cry, emphasize, battle cry of give a friendly minion +3 health.
Yep.
So it's like a Dark Cultist, except you always get to choose what you put it on, and they can't make it so you don't get the effect at all just by killing your other minion first.
Right. So let's do a simple comparison here. Temple Enforcer is a premium priest card, right? Mm-hmm. That is understated.
6 mana 6/6.
6 mana 6/6. Compared with this 3 mana 3/4, which is what you should get for a vanilla with no bonus.
Yep.
Now they both give +3 health, but it should be proportional, right? Mm-hmm. The bigger the card, and because it's understated, you should be getting 5 health at least with the Temple Enforcer. But no, you only, quote, only get 3 health. So here you basically have something that is appropriately costed, and it gives much more for your mana cost than the Tempo Enforcer. So it's just it's so
It's
it's
stupid.
so sick. It's so
You're
sick.
trying to make the comparison, and it's like it's 3 mana instead of
It
six,
can't.
right?
It
It's a
doesn't
curve.
work.
You
Yeah.
can't make any comparison like that. It's just in another league in and of itself. Like when this card gets rated, its stat line will probably be like one of the highest minions we will like have rated. Like people look at 4 mana 7/7 for Shaman, and they're like, oh, that's a stupid card. This is way stupider. This is like in a different league than a 4 mana 7/7. Let's get that out of the way there, like right off the bat. Like when we actually sit down and give it a tier score, it will be. I think I can almost say like right now that it'll be the best priest card, period. Except maybe Potion of Madness, which is the other card that's being released. So this is topping the priest charts. And just to think about how your turns are going to progress, right? If you're going first, you put out the 2-drop. If your opponent didn't have a removal and didn't happen to coin their first 2-drop to remove your 2-drop, because let's say they didn't have 2/2s, they're dead. Because you're going to come back and kill their 2-drop with your 2-drop and still have a 2-drop left in addition to your 3-drop. So the effect in that case is like an Argent Protector, but while going first, but with the appropriate stats instead of the lower stats. Like it's just in that scenario. In the other scenario where you don't have a target, it's way better than an Argent Protector. Like even more better than the Argent Protector because you just get the health. You don't get like a Divine Shield. And then
Right.
you're a priest, which means you can heal back the health. Like,
Exactly.
and if you have stuff as the priest that sticks on the board, you can buff it again because that's what the priest does. Think about it from the other side. Think about it if you have the coin, right? If you have the coin, it's always kind of a slog. What do? Your opponent doesn't play a 1-drop, plays a 2-drop. You coin out a 3-drop. Can a 2-drop remove a 3-drop? No. So unless your opponent, and 3-drops are generally a bit tricky and take 2 hits, so your opponent will need to use a removal, use a removal on your 3-drop, and then trade their 2-drop into the remainder of your 3-drop in order to prevent the Cabal Talon Priest on the next turn from getting value. This is if you coin a 3-drop with the Cabal Talon Priest. So, no matter what the situation is, if you have a curve, this is a stupid card that puts you ahead, far more ahead than Argent Protector on turn 2 ever did for the Paladin. And that was an insane card on turn 2. And the worst part is, like Argent Protector, like later in the game, this is still just as good, if not better. You're still getting 3 health on a minion, guaranteed, right? Like if you play a 4-drop and a 3-drop on turn 7, the 4-drop gets 3 extra health. And the 3-drop is still a 3/4. It's mind-blowingly like overpowered power creep of a card.
Yes. It's insane. And if you guys can imagine this having an offering bonus as well, so that like whenever there is a common card that is like really good and there's an offering bonus, basically it means that every like you're gonna have 2 of these per deck, right? Like at least 2 of these per deck. Probably even a little bit more. Like what you saw with Firelands Portal is you had 2 per deck. Firelands Portal, you might be going up against some like really premium cards as well, or you might just need a little bit of early game. This is going to be picked.
This is your
more
early
often.
game.
Yeah.
This is like all the time. This is better than Firelands Portal, definitely. But then again, we don't think too highly of Firelands Portal compared to other people, so you got to take that and keep that in mind too. But this is definitely better than Firelands Portal. I see some people in the chat saying, and I think that I'm going to address this because it's like a common misconception about how curve works and how this card works, which is that, well, you have to be ahead for this card to get value, right? You don't have to be ahead. That's what's stupid about this card. This is like Argent Protector. You don't have to be ahead, you just have to be neutral on the board. And in the early turns, the chances that you are neutral or ahead on the board is like 75% plus at the time.
Yeah. So guys, there's a huge difference between like people keep on tossing around. You have to be ahead. No. You don't have to be ahead.
You don't have to be ahead at all.
No. Like
you just have to not be behind, which is a totally different thing because this is not a game where you're either ahead or you're behind. Most of the game, especially in the early turns, are spent with both sides pretty much fighting for the board evenly. You put down something, they put down something. You trade your thing to their thing, or you go face and put down something else. They trade their thing into your thing and put down something else. That's how the game normally progresses. So, unless something has happened which you were put behind as of turn 2, which is very, very rare, it generally involves like your opponent playing a 1-drop and you not playing a 1-drop, or like your opponent cleaving or playing a weapon, right? Like those things put you behind right off the bat. But those few, very few scenarios aside, you are going to be even on the board if you have a 3 with a coin, or if you have a 2 without the coin, or even a 1 without the coin.
You're going to get into a lot of situations playing against Priest where you say, if I don't have the Frostbolt, or if I don't have the Dark Bomb on turn 2 to get rid of, like, I can't just drop a Puddle Stomper, right? Like,
Nope.
if I don't have those,
If you drop a Puddle Stomper and your opponent's expected to have 2 of these in their deck, like,
you're dead. He's keeping it in his. He's gonna keep it in his hand.
more than half the time you lose the game right there.
Yeah.
And remember, this is not the Warrior. Like a comparison that I think people are looking at is, well, a lot of other classes, especially the Warrior, have such, and the Warrior was pretty bad. They have such overpowered cards, and it's okay. There's a huge difference here because the Warrior hero power is always worthless. The Priest hero power is actually the best hero power in the game, or like one of the top 2 hero powers in the game, if you are ahead on the board. And this is the card. Again, you don't have to be ahead on the board to use this card to its full potential. You just have to be neutral on the board. This is the card that changes your typical neutral early game situation into wildly ahead, so that your hero power then becomes the best hero power in the game rather than one of the worst. And Warrior doesn't get that. No matter how many N'Zoth's First Mates, no matter how many the Scarab generating guy, Obsidian Destroyers, no matter how many Fool's Banes that you give a Warrior, he will never be able to leverage his hero power to be like this ridiculous value generator. The Priest, on the other hand, has a ridiculous value generating, non-tempo losing, it's even on tempo, hero power for free, as long as the Priest is on the board, like, and ahead on the board. So any card that is played typically on a neutral board that gets you ahead is so insanely good.
Yeah, this is. I don't know. Like this. See, here's the thing. Do you think they were considering Arena when they put this card out?
I think they were. I don't think it's definitely not designed for Arena. I think they were considering it. I don't think they recognized all the things that we have just said to that degree. Like, I think it's easy to recognize, like, oh, this is really good. It could even be better than Argent Protector. I think it's hard to recognize this is so much better than an Argent Protector. And in Priest, if Priest had a card that functioned like an Argent Protector but allowed you to heal, it's game over.
So I actually had the opportunity at BlizzCon, during the night. Like, I basically talked with 3 really, really, really good constructive players. I don't want to, like, put them on the spot, so I won't name them. But, like,
really? You found really good constructive players at BlizzCon?
Crazy, right? Insane. Like, oh, we just happened to go to the same party. But I asked them, I was like, so Priest is going to be insane in the arena. I was like, what's your opinion? Is Priest going to be good in constructed? I'm like, it seems like they have some combos. It seems like they have some
There's
power.
There's a dragon coming up that's going to be pretty good.
Yeah, and all 3 constructive players universally said, they're like, it's not going to make Priest that much better. Now, like, people could be wrong, and people have been wrong, right? But
it's hard to predict the meta, especially when you don't see the other cards yet.
Right.
Like, one deck changing and constructed changes the entire meta.
Yeah.
And it's not like Arena.
What's up with that? They're like, oh, Priest has no strong 2-drop, period. And it makes a lot of sense. I was like, oh, okay. I mean, I definitely get it. It's just like, in Arena, a River Croc or a Raptor is fine on turn 2, right? Like, that's good. You have something to play. They're just like, yeah, the power level on turn 2 that the Priest can put out, or like can put out to hopefully have the Cabal like basically buff it. It's just not there. Like, in constructed, they needed something like what Paladin got in Shield of Minibot, right? Like that's sort of like what bumped Paladins like over the edge as well, like how they had the Zombie Chow into the Shield of Minibot. So they're like, yeah, all these cards are really good, and yes, you will see more Priests, but they're like, yeah, like, I think it's a totally fair expansion. I don't think it's like broken. I was like, oh, okay, well, it certainly makes a difference. And now I'm thinking, I'm like, well, how much thought did they put into it in terms of arena, right?
I
Because
think they looked at it and they said, look, Priest is, and you saw the stats, right? And they're looking at the stats. Priest is god awful in the arena statistically for the average player. Now, you've also seen us play Priest in the Karazhan meta. It's pretty good. Like, it's not like great. It's definitely still one of the worst classes, but it's not like definitely at the very bottom, right? In the old Karazhan meta, like when with the offering bonus, Merps had Paladin below Priest. You know, like I didn't have Paladin quite below Priest, but it's kind of like Priest is in that like someone has to be the worst class scenario. And then they removed the Karazhan meta, which didn't actually move the Priest all that much, mostly because Priest was very good for the Karazhan meta, and not having that meta kind of sucks. But they did get like all these cards also, you know, the bad cards also removed. So, like in the arena, Priest was never in that bad of a position. It was just like the default, there has to be a worse class, or like a couple classes tied for being worse, and Priest was there. But if you looked at the statistics, which Blizzard does, you know, and they say this is how they balance the arena, they look at stats. They do other stuff too, but they mostly look at stats. And when you look at the stats, especially when you're looking at historical stats from older metas, we certainly did not do well with Priest and OG. As people who watch us can attest to. You'll see that Priest is way below the win rate of the other classes. And so they're probably looking at it and say like, look, we can just give them a frankly overpowered card for the arena and it wouldn't matter and it would be okay. And they probably looked back and thought, well, we did it for the Warrior and it was okay. It's not like Warrior ever even became one of the top classes. Warrior like was barely middle of the line and we gave it like ridiculous cards repeatedly over many expansions. So I think that's what they were thinking. And
maybe
it's not how it works with Priest. It's not the same as Warrior when it comes to the Priest hero power. And I think they know all this like in their heads, but I don't think they feel that it will shift things as much as we think it'll shift things. And who knows, maybe we're wrong. Maybe this one overpower card won't actually make Priest all that much better. Right? Like, or maybe
we haven't seen most of the expansion.
Right, we haven't seen most of the expansion. Sure. We only have vague like feelings about like where the meta is going to go. We haven't seen the mage cards, which could be even more powerful. I hope not, but like, you know, we really haven't seen those things. But this is like one of the most ridiculous power creep moments in Hearthstone that I remember.
Yes.
And I think for arena, and they did it on purpose. I think where the arena pass was like, hey, is this going to be really good in arena? Yes, it's going to be really good in arena. Okay, that's a good thing. Not like, hey, is this going to be really good for arena? No, I think it's just going to be okay. Like, I don't think they like misjudge the card by thinking it's like not a great card. I think they just misjudge what a great card in this style will do for the Priest in the arena.
Yep.
So
okay, so there's another good card as well.
Okay, so as you can see, the tri-cards we're not excited about at all, but this Priest thing is going to change the whole freaking meta so bad. Potion of Madness. I'm going to read the card out, and then you can freak out about it. It is a 1 mana card. 1 mana, just 1 mana. And it's a spell, and it reads, gain control of an enemy minion with 2 or less attack until the end of turn.
Why? Why isn't it 2 mana?
Because they saw Shadow Madness and they're like, this is like just not good enough of a card. It feels underpowered. So when we make a smaller version of it, we gotta give it something. Like, do we make it also heal your face for 10 damage? Or do we make it 1 less mana? It's simpler to make it 1 less mana, so let's just make it 1 less mana.
This is just so sick. I mean, how many times do you encounter it's like, oh, on turn 1, turn 2, like the opponent's like trying to get ahead, right? Puts down, let's say like a 2-1 and then like puts down 2-1 and then 3-2, or like, you know, coins out like a 2-3 into 3-2. Or, you know, even if it's like a 2-1 and a 2-3, okay, you know, you kill off the 2-1, you like basically
it's 1 mana.
Yeah, it's 1 mana.
You know what's a good card for Priest? Holy Smite.
It's a great card for Priest.
It's a great card. And you know what Holy Smite does? Like literally half of what this does.
Right. Literally half of what this card does.
Assuming your opponent has 2 things and one of them has 2 attack or less, which is going to happen a lot. Like, you know how often it's okay to play a Kodo and you'll get something out of it?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, sure.
it's not like every turn you can play it, but like half the turns you can play it probably. Like a third of the turns at worst.
Yeah.
And you get double the value of Holy Smite.
This is okay. The huge problem I have with this is like, my gosh, the tempo swing is insane with this
Yes.
card.
Yes.
How
Infested
can
Taurens,
you
Haunted Creepers, freaking Wobbling Runts. I don't even know. What do you call that thing? Harvest Golem.
like Shadow Madness is really good because it's a good value card, right? It's a
Yeah.
good value
And it's
card.
an AoE-ish card.
Right, right. It gets you out of tight spots, and like you can always find a pretty decent use out of Shadow Madness. The one problem with Shadow Madness is like it's not always going to be like fantastic tempo for you,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
This, it doesn't matter. Like as long as you control a minion, and unless you're like
You always
bumping
get
a
tempo.
2/3 into their 2/3, right? You're killing something off.
Yeah.
So and it'll strictly be better than Holy Smite. Now,
Okay, if you're
yes,
bumping a 2/3 into there, 2/3, you've dealt 4 damage to their minions for 1 mana.
sure, you've consecrated, right? It's a bad
How is that?
consecration.
How
You're
is that
fighting, like,
not good for
consecrate
1
that.
mana? I know you tried to give an example where you don't get really excessive tempo with this card, but you failed. But
Well,
you failed because you can't get. If this card is playable in the board situation, you will get insane tempo for this card.
Right, right. But a lot of times you're like, well, maybe I want to kill something off and not just weaken their guys. But yes, yes. It's absolutely insane. Like if you think about sort of like the floor and the ceiling of a card, right?
Yep.
Some cards have very high ceilings but very low floors as well. This has an incredibly high ceiling and an incredibly high floor. There's almost like,
No
yes, there
downside.
are times in which you can't use it, right? Because they don't
Oh
have.
no, it's a 1 mana card I can't use. I wonder when I will
Right.
squeeze it in future turns.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is just.
And you know what priests are generally lacking? Like ways to deal with things with 4 attack. This is a way to deal with something with 4 attack. It steals a lower minion, then deals a little damage into the 4 attack minion. Priest is missing board clears. This is like a mini board clear. It's like a weird cleave of sorts, you know? It's a sickeningly broken card. Now, okay, I'm going to say this about Potion of Madness. Because it's Priest, and because Priest really needed like good removals like this, the fact that this exists is not really going to have, I think, the same impact as Cabal Talon Priest. Because at the end of the day, it is just like filling a hole. It is not allowing the Priest to snowball into the beast that the class already was. Right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Cabal Talon Priest unleashes the hidden potential of the Priest. Potion of Madness is just an insanely good of a card that costs 1 less mana than it should. Like, Potion of Madness is like Fireland's Portal without the RNG, right? It's like the Flame Wreath Faceless. It's like, yeah, that probably shouldn't be a card. It's that good, but it's still just a good card that's kind of isolated from everything else. Cabal Talon Priest changes the game for Priest. Or, I mean, it doesn't really change the game in the sense of the Priest is going to try to play the same game. It will just make the Priest wildly more successful at that snowball. And once a Priest snowballs, you faced a Priest who has snowballed. You lose. There's nothing you can do about it. You need, like,
Yep.
Doom. And then maybe you'll be back in it. Like, I don't even know what you need, like, just the most ridiculous cards.
Yep. Yeah, look, typically I don't pull comments from a chat, but I think this is a really good one. And this actually comes from Shady Bunny. So
Oh, so that's not really like Twitch chat. That's like pro arena
exactly.
comments.
So basically, it's like Shady Bunny is helping us with this as well. I think he has a really good meta sort of meta response to this. He's basically saying like what's going to happen because, and I'm moving ahead just a little bit and mentioning a new card. One of the neutral cards that's coming out is called Mistress of Mixtures, which is a 1 mana 2/2
Yep.
common neutral card that has a death rattle restore 4 health to both players. Because this is a neutral card, and because it's a good card, and because it has an offering bonus, Shady is basically saying when a meta is filled with 1 mana 2/2s, people are going to shy away from 2 mana 3/2s, right? For obvious reasons. So more people are going to gravitate towards 2 mana 2/3s to combat basically just getting, from combating, their 1-drop trading up into your 2-drop. But then what happens is everyone is picking minions that plays into Potion of Madness,
right.
and like, do you always just play against this one card in Priest, or do you play against every class which is going to draft the 1-mana 2/2? So
I think it's going to be interesting where the meta's going, and like, we're a little ahead of ourselves, but if you think about it, one of the points I was going to make after this, when we were talking about like generally what the neutral cards and where the meta's going, and that card, which we might as well just jump to right now. I mean, it heals. It's kind of like a Priest card, even though it's a neutral card. So it is Mistress of Mixtures. It's a neutral common. 1-mana 2/2, restore 4 health to both players as a death rattle. This is going to be a good card. People are going to pick it. But generally speaking, this card and some of the other cards are defensive. They're healing in nature. They slow the game down, even though this is like a 1-mana card. So I'm actually a bit skeptical that people are going to take more 1-drops or like other 1-drops. I think there will actually be fewer 1-drops as the game slows down again to some pace that's like closer to OG than to Karazhan. If the rest of the cards kind of fit this kind of like slower like theme. Because one of the things with these with a card like Potion of Madness is having 1-drops really helps, right? If your opponent plays a 1-drop, Potion of Madness cleans up.
It does.
And they will play this 1-mana 2/2. But that one card aside, if the meta actually slows down, you'll see a lot less like 2/1s, right? Like, Worgen Infiltrator will still be there, but what are the odds Worgen Infiltrator is unstealthed? Who knows, right? Like, especially if they know you have a potion, that you could have a Potion of Madness, I think the Worgens will be a lot less aggressive. And Argent Squires, you're not really stealing to a great effect. You only pop the shield. So of the premiums, right, it's just like Zombie Chow. So I think it's a lot of factors that go in, and it depends on what the other cards are and just how much slower the meta gets. But it's definitely something to think about. And that Potion of Mixtures is a very, very good target for you to steal with the Potion of Madness. And it's an early target, right? That's the point.
Yep. So it's just really good. Like, let's establish Priest's common cards. I can't imagine any other class. Like, please don't have another class have better common cards than Priest, because then it'll just be pure like,
it's pure power creep. And
pure power creep.
Generally, when they release a large expansion, there's not a lot of power creep. The power creeps generally happen in small expansions because they need these cards to be impactful so people will play them. For these large expansions, like, you don't have that many power creep cards. Like, think about like OG, there was like a handful. And I'm hoping we like see all of them right now and they're all Priest, and that's done. Okay, but anyway, there's one more common Priest card that we don't know about yet. It's probably going to be OP as well. And so we'll see what that is. Let's move on with the Priest though for the rare cards. One is, just to give you an idea of how good the Priest is going to get. One is Draconid Operative.
My God.
Which is a 5-mana 5/6 dragon. With this ability, because you thought it had no ability because it was already a 5-mana 5/6 dragon, but no. Battle Cry. If you're holding a dragon, discover a card in your opponent's deck.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so 5-mana 5/6. It's a Pit Fighter. Pit Fighter is already really good in the arena. It's got a dragon tag, so it activates other things. That's really good. Battle Cry, if you're holding a dragon. Now, look, dragons are hard to get, right? But if there's an offering bonus to this, like,
you will have more Draconid Operatives in your deck.
Exactly. So it's not that crazy for you to get like maybe a couple more dragons. And look, if you don't have it, you play Pit Fighter. Oh no, you played a Pit Fighter.
Yeah. Like that. And it activates your other cards that require Dragon Synergy.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
When it's in your hand, and it's going to be in your hand because it's a 5-mana card. You're not going to play it in the early going. And discovering a card is just giving you a free card. That is, keep in mind, it's from your opponent's deck. So
they filtered.
So this is like tracking levels of goodness. They've already filtered out of the 3 things they get to pick the best card. You then get to filter again, and on top of that, you now know what 3 of their cards in the deck are.
Yep.
Like, it's just what? Oh man, why is this not a 5/5? This will be a good card at 5/5.
Like, why isn't this a 5/5? Why isn't Cabal Talon Priest a 3/3? Right?
Yeah.
I don't understand this stuff. This just it really doesn't make any sense. If it was a 5/5, I'd still be
It's
like,
a
oh,
way
yeah,
above
this is a
average
really
card,
good
if
card.
not a flat out good card at 5/5. Just
Yes.
because the ability, even though you're not going to trigger it too frequently, you're still going to trigger it sometimes. And when
Right.
you trigger it, it is so insanely powerful.
Right. Like look at Clockwork Knight, right?
Yeah.
It is like a card that is also not easy to trigger at all because you need something on the board.
Yep.
Right. This just have to hold.
Yep.
So yes, you'll have more mechs, but it has to like survive on the board. And that, we're like, oh, okay, cool. You get +1/+1. That's nice. That's cute. Here is look at 3 of your opponent's cards, discover their win condition, take their win condition, beat them with it.
Yes.
That's it. Yeah.
Exactly. It's a stupid card. It's a rare, so it's not that bad. If that was the other common, I would be like, oh my god, priest. But the other common's probably going to be just as good. Pint-sized potion is the last rare for priest, and it's a 1 mana card. And it says give all enemy minions -3 attack this turn only. So you could think of it as like a commanding shout from Warrior, like a weird version of that, but for 1 less mana you don't get a card. It's really good for combos, right? Because priests have a lot of things that do that deal with attacks. There's another card that's going to be good. That's a common neutral that we haven't talked about yet, which is a 4/4 Crazed Alchemist for 4 mana, basically. And flipping things is very good because it keeps the stat on there forever. So you -3 to attack to make it into 0 attack, and then you flip it and the thing dies, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of cool combos you can do with this, but outside of the combos, it's not that good, but it's playable.
But think of it this way, like you have Cabal Town Priest in which you're going to snowball onto the board, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you have the board, Pint-Sized Potion is GG, right?
Kind of. Like, think about Circle of Healing. It's, like, similar.
Sure.
But, like, this costs 1 more mana.
Right, but like
it,
you said, you can do more
yeah,
with it.
you can do more combo-y stuff with it. But it's the arena.
Yes.
Combo stuff don't happen too frequently.
Right.
I mean, it's going to be, like, you're going to pick it here and there. But it's by far the worst of the priest cards that have
Right,
been
this is
revealed.
the first card in which I'm not like, oh my god, please someone like just pinch me. This can't be rare. This is like, oh okay, they made this card. It's gonna be good.
Yeah, it's gonna be okay. Okay, and then, as if it's not enough, here's an epic card. I'm glad this is epic, by the way. I'm glad this is not rare or common. 6 mana, Dragonfire Potion. Dragonfire Potion. Deal 5 damage to all minions except dragons.
Pretty good.
So you know how for the Warlock, to deal 3 damage, it costs 4 mana to everything? You know how to deal 5 to 6 damage as a shaman for unstable explosion, whatever that card is?
Elemental Destruction.
Yeah, elemental destruction.
And that's 4 to 5. That's 4
Oh, that's only 4 to 5, right? That costs what, like 3 mana plus 5 overload?
Yes.
So 8 mana to deal 4 to 5. This costs 6 mana to deal 5 flat to everything. And I will say this about this card. The fact that it doesn't kill dragons is a bad thing. You may think, oh, you can synergize with your dragons, but you would just like not put your dragons out until you use this card. You have that choice. But if your opponent plays a dragon, you just can't kill it with this. So yeah, it's possible you play a dragon, you use it on a turn, and then like you don't want to kill it off the board. But it's more likely that your opponent has a dragon that you want to kill than you have a dragon already on the board that you want to protect. So it's a net negative. But it doesn't matter. This card is so freaking like the mana cost is so low for what it does.
Here's the way I think about it now. It's a really great card. I'm like, well, priests are just gonna have the board like from now on anyway, so
so it doesn't matter. Oh god.
I could definitely see it's like 2 months from now when I'm drafting. I'm like, all right, guys, we're not picking the Dragonfire Potion because we're always going to be ahead and we're always going to be winning. So we don't want this. It's a bad card. All right.
We rated it at 80, like 5 on the tier list, but like in some situations, it's one of those cards that the value drops very quickly when you have like your 3rd or 4th Cabal Talon Priest, right? Like.
I mean, even then, yeah, I mean, I'm joking, guys. It's still like you always want sort of a backup plan.
You do.
Right.
You do want a backup plan.
This is a really, really good backup plan.
And priests have so many backup plans. They have excavated evils. They have light bombs. They have these like big bombs, and you can't play around them because they're all epic and rare. But you have like so many of them. I don't know. It's like people would complain about the mage and Firelands portals, and it was indeed very frustrating to play against. And there was a lot of RNG. There's gonna be no RNG in the new meta because it's gonna be all priests and they don't have RNG cards. They have flat out overpowered cards that destroy you.
You can't even be angry about like Babbling Brook anymore.
No, you can't be angry about Firelands portal. You can't be angry about anything. All you can be angry about is why did you do this to us, Blizzard? The thing with the priest meta is that it feels worse than any other meta.
Yep.
Because there's nothing you can do as any class about it. You just lose. Like, if you are a hunter, you can't get enough damage on priests. They'll heal themselves back up once they stabilize. Like, you can't go fast. They control the board, so you can't attack them from on the board. As a paladin, as a shaman, you never get to set up. Like, we all know priests already counter mages. Like, how... The only, like, rogues counter priest.
Yeah.
Warriors counter priest. Sort of.
Yeah, well, it's because they have better tempo plays.
Yeah.
Yeah. Much better tempo plays.
What else? You're kind of stuck. You like warlocks, maybe, like kind of. I can see warlocks, but you're in this weird meta now where like for once mages and paladins are not good counters to whatever is good in the meta. Rogues still are, which is good, but now warriors and warlocks are going to get a little bit of boost because of this whole priest thing. But more importantly, who likes playing against a priest that's on the board? It's so frustrating.
No one likes playing against priests when they're bad. Definitely no one will like playing against priests when they're good.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now, like, people who are, like, tryharding are all going to pick priests. So if you like to watch streams, be ready for 3-hour-long streams for a single arena run. It's just... It's an effect where Blizzard gave people pretty much exactly what they were asking for, and then some. And they're highly responsive to the needs of the community. And I think they're going to overshoot this by a good margin. But it'll be fine. It'll be fine because of this whole like removal of the set bonus thing, right? Like in a month and a half, when we're getting really tired of the new priest meta, they'll take the bonus away and priest will be better and normal-ish and balanced at that point. So we always have that to look forward to.
Yep. All right.
Okay, so that's priest. Let's move on to the neutral cards. We also have some cards from other classes, but we're not going to go card by card down it. We're just hitting the important themes. The neutral cards, we already talked about Mistress of Mixtures. 1 mana, 2/2, restore 4 health to both players. You know, good card. Kind of like the Raven. Not as good as the Raven because it's not a beast and a druid. But, you know, these are good. These are all cards I think are like Yeti level, maybe a little better than Yeti. The Kooky Chemist we talked about, 4 mana, 4/4. Swap attack health of a minion. Crazed Out, we already think is better than your normal 2-drop. And that's a 2/2, and we all know how much we hate 2/2s. This is a 4/4, which is a lot more legit. And it does the same thing. So it's going to be better. And then also your obligatory 2-drop common card, neutral, 2 mana, 2/3, friendly bartender. At the end of your turn, restore 1 health to your hero.
Significant.
Very significant. I think a lot of people are like underselling this card and being like, oh, just another 2/3. But like, we're going to rate it pretty high. Because let's say it lives 2 turns, which it should live at least 2 turns. You're going to get 2 health. Think about like Priestess of Elune. Or like any other card that heals you. Like, you take a big penalty for getting healed. Like, healing 2 health is like more than a stat's worth of stuff. Yeah. The way Blizzard normally calculates it.
And it will always heal you for 2, but yeah, it's
because sometimes heal you for a lot more than 2.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things where it's deceptively good. Although, if you have a lot of these healing cards and a lot of some other things, maybe the meta slows down enough so that you're back at OG.
If there's a lot of heals, if there's a lot of heals, then each individual heal is lessened.
Yeah. And it's not a burst heal, right? Like burst heals are better than like 1x1, right? Like you're not gonna save yourself from fireball with like 1 per turn. Your opponent will just figure it into their play. But it's still, it adds up. Like how many times have you gotten the vitality totem and you're like, oh nice, like, you know, out of like usually a pilot shredder or something, right? Or like the totem generating guy, you're like not mad at it at all because the health is useful.
The health is useful, and lots of times you're just going to get like a 2/2 or something anyway, so you're fairly happy with it.
So yeah, you have these cards. It's hard to say where the meta is going because 1 mana 2/2 is suggesting that you hold the board, you grab the board, and then you heal people up so you keep playing on the board. And I think maybe that's what Blizzard is going for a bit, but it's hard to find a theme just yet. I'm sure we'll get there very quickly. Look at the rare cards. Big Time Racketeer. 6 mana 1/1. Summon a 6/6 ogre. The ogre doesn't do anything, it's just a 6/6. So it's basically a 6 mana 6/6 with a 1/1.
Yeah. Oh, and if you guys are curious, the ogre token is a 6 mana 6/6. Yep. So it is basically you get a 6 mana 1/1 and a 6 mana 6/6 as well. So this card is very good, right?
Very good.
Yeah, like Boulderfist Ogre is good. This is good. And this is some potential for not only just more bodies on the board that you could do stuff with. It's got potential with you know, some certain combos, like you know, you can do stuff like Effigy for both of them now. You can recombobulate the 1/1, right?
It's a fun card, but it also is a very normal arena card that we are fully in support of having more of.
Yep, it's just gonna be good. Yep. It's just gonna be a good card.
We haven't had like a stabilizing card on 6 since Draconic Crusher. Like, we just haven't. So it's good that they're adding this. And then we have an interesting card, another rare, Second Rate Bruiser. It's a 4/5 taunt for 5 mana. But it costs 2 less if your opponent has at least 3 minions.
Yep. I mean, all of these neutral cards so far are sort of a little bit anti-aggro, right? So we'll see if the other cards hold in this fashion.
Yep.
But all of them so far, it's like they heal, they taunt, or you know, the Big Time Racketeer is just a minion that like you can play out and also has you know, implications for combos or just 2 bodies as well. Yeah. I see you didn't mention the Grook Fu Master. Is that intentional?
I just haven't gotten there yet because the website I'm using didn't have it when it was revealed because it was revealed late.
Yeah.
So the Second Rate Bruiser, though, let me just go into it a little more. For 4 mana, you get a 3/5 taunt, and it's good, right? That's Ascension. For 5 mana, you get a 4/5 taunt, so it's not that good, but it's not that far off, right? It's not like it should cost you like 4 mana. It should cost you like 4.5 mana, right? And so you're only losing half a mana normally on this. And sometimes when you taunt, you really don't care about the mana, right? You just kind of like think about Fen Creeper and how okay of a card that is to have. And that's basically the same. It's a 5 mana 3/6, which is not significantly better than a 5 mana 4/5 taunt. And that's also 5 mana. So this is kind of like a above average card that has an upside to be a ridiculously good card. If your opponent goes aggro, or if it's just in the late game, it'll save you a couple of mana and allow you to late game tempo. Because in the late game, it's very likely your opponent has 3 cards on the board.
Yeah.
Especially if your opponent's like a paladin or a shaman, it's guaranteed. So you have like a swing turn added to it. So it's a very good card, I think. I mean, you know, very good. Not like premium, but like better than a Yeti. I'll give it that. Okay, so let's talk about the card that you were talking about.
Grook Fu Master. It is a 5 mana.
So it's a common minion. We skipped over when we were dealing with commons, but it is a common minion.
Right. It is a common neutral, 5 mana, 3/5 with Wind Fury. That's it. Is it good? No.
It has Wind Fury. It can't be good.
It's basically if it's a neutral minion with Wind Fury, it can't be good, right? that's sort of the rule that Blizzard has given.
Yep.
It's like Whirling Zapomatic, it's a class card,
That's
so
fine.
it's like, oh, it can be good. But yeah, if it's neutral and it has Wind Fury, there's no way it's good. Basically,
So you could add a mana to it and give it an extra attack, which you don't want to do. So this is better than a Wind Fury Harpy, but that's really not saying much.
a lot of things are better than Wind Fury Harpy,
Yeah.
man. So this is look. You'll maybe see it a couple of times. I think people will realize very quickly that it is not good. Like I was basically saying how much I don't like the 3/5 distribution on turn 4, right? I really don't like that distribution on turn 5. Yeah. Like when I fear the 5/4 counter to your 3/5, and 5/4s are getting more and more common, right? Like with every single expansion that has come out so far, like 5/4s have gotten more and more play. So now a turn later, and you present that problem, yeah, no. Like, sorry.
Yep. All right, let's go to the epics. We got 2 epic cards just to wrap things up for the neutrals because we've been reviewing all the neutral cards. These won't affect the meta that much just because they're epic, but we feel like we should talk about it. And I think people all came out with the right conclusion on this one, which I'm glad because it shows that we know what's going on, like as a community. Fel Orc Soulfiend. It's a 3-mana 3/7, and at the start of your turn, deal 2 damage to this minion, which means by the time you get it back, it's a 3/5. And then by the time you get it back again, it's a 3/3. Or if you've like killed something with it already, which you probably should have, it's dead.
Right.
So, is it good? No. It is not good. It is like very actively not good. Like, it doesn't get eaten by anything, but it will also not eat anything. And if your opponent just like plays removals or like screws around and does other things, it just kills itself.
Right. And look, you have small combos with like Willing Souls, and yes, you can heal it up. But once again, this is a card that's not that bad for Priest, right? Like, is this exactly what you want to be using your hero power on? No, but it gives you something to do with your hero power if you had nothing to do previously, right?
Yep.
And this is exactly sort of what you want as a Priest, like something that is overstated or has a lot of health to give you room to heal it, right? Just having room to heal something is fantastic. This is why as a Priest you don't want like a 5/2. You don't want the Ice Rager because it can kill stuff, but then you don't get to drain anything more from that Ice Rager. Fel Orc Soulfiend is going to be it's going to be a card for a lot of classes, and it's going to have a that bonus for Priest, which thank you.
So like I don't know what else to kind of say about this. Has some synergies with Warrior because it hurts itself. But like think about it this way, right? Like if it's gonna kill itself, you're only just gonna deal 3 damage with it, which means generally speaking, a 3/4 will do the same thing as it in the best of scenarios.
Sure.
Which means this will probably beat out a 3/3 because it can never get eaten, but it's not gonna beat out a 3/4, and it's gonna be worse than a 3/4 because anything can kill it. Like, whereas a 3/4 would eat something, this is not going to eat anything either. So, it's not going to be a good card. Is it a playable 3-drop? It is. And that has value in and of itself, right? The fact that you have a playable 3-drop.
Sure. And it's more likely to stick onto the board than a 3/3, which is kind of what this ends up being, right? If you just look at it. Yep.
And if you're wondering why it ends up sticking on the board more than a 3/3, it's because the turn in which you kill something, like, you can damage it affirmatively. So it does have, like, if your opponent plays a 3/3 and you play a 3/3, you trade, right? If your opponent plays a 3/4 and you play this, like, one, you can have a chance to buff it or do whatever to it, but otherwise you still deal the 3 damage to your opponent.
Yep.
So it's the same effect. But it has that extra out against, like, a 3/3 or even a 3/4, which is, it's important. It makes it significantly better than a 3/3. But unlike a 3/4, it can't really eat a 3/3 or do all that stuff. Okay. Anyway, enough about this card. It's just a complicated card, but it really, like, after you use it a couple times, you'll know exactly how good it is. Wind Up Burglebot is our final epic. It is 6 mana. It is 5/5. It is a mech. It is epic and neutral. And whenever this attacks a minion and survives, draw a card.
Yeah, I mean,
You're not
the
going to draw a
problem,
lot of cards.
right? Like, how many times is this? This has to attack a minion, and then it has to survive.
Yep.
Like, how many times are you going to be able to attack, right? And a
Like,
six
on
mana,
average, less than once.
right? Less than once. So, would you prefer this, or would you prefer like a Grand Crusader? You're going for the Grand Crusader because that's
Definitely Grand Crusader.
yeah. You get the card immediately. Sure, there's some bad Paladin cards, but you just want to get that card right away a lot of times. And yeah, this is also mech, but like
It's a
six
weird
mana,
combo
5/5.
card for combos that I can't even think of right now.
Right, right.
Like, you need Wind Furies, you need Divine Shields, you need heals, you need buffs, like that kind of stuff.
Essentially. Yep.
Yep, so that's that. All right, so that's what we have so far in terms of the revealed cards. We didn't do some of the any of the class cards for the other classes because we're not too impressed by them, and there's not a lot of them. Like, some of them are fine. It's not like we don't like the cards.
We'll talk about them some other time.
Yeah, they're just not. There's not like game changing. And I think we really should focus on the priest because that's what this expansion is going to be, right? Karazhan's for mages, MSGs for priests. That's
It's
what's
also
gonna
good
happen.
to talk about a class when most of its cards have come out, so you
Yeah.
can sort of see how these cards interact,
Mm-hmm.
or not interact and just dominate.
Yep. So that's it. Hope for the card preview part for MSG anyway. Hope you guys found that somewhat insightful. I don't think we dropped any bombs that people didn't really expect, but I hope you found some of the reasons behind why Priest is going to be so dominant in the arena that maybe haven't been as articulated in such detail as we just did. Class talk is going to be Priest. We're actually going to play a Priest run after this.
It's gonna be so disappointing.
Oh, when we don't get the OP cards? Yeah. But, like, we know how Priest plays. We're trying to get on the board and stick on the board, and then we win. It's just a lot harder now than it will be once these cards come out. But let's do a question from the GOAT. Question from the GOAT, man.
Question from the GOAT this week is simply, how was BlizzCon, man?
Okay, let's end this on question from the GOAT. Okay, so BlizzCon was awesome. Thank you so much to Molly from the Blizzard community relations team, who hooked us up with media passes, and that was nice to get good seats and free food and all that stuff. So thank you so much for that, and thank you to the developers who talked to us, especially Ixar. It's really great to get to hear them talk about the arena and to hear some of the things that they're considering, not like specifics, but just like the issues that they struggle with, how they're thinking about possible solutions to problems, things like that, right? But I think the really cool part was like meeting all the like other Hearthstone players. There's people that we've hung out with a lot, right? Like Hafu, like Ratsma, and then there's people that like we like sort of know. But we maybe talked with, but we haven't really like met or whatever. Like Frodan, like Crip, the Toast. Toast was awesome, and also just random people that you see, right, who are constructive players. Just whatever you can think of. We pretty much met everybody, and that was a really cool experience. So that's what was really cool for me. What about you?
Oh, I like playing the Necromancer. I play the Necromancer really good. Necromancer feels really good, guys. So I was pretty disappointed that they didn't announce Diablo 4, which I know is a pipe dream, but I was looking forward to something bigger. But I played the Necro. It's pretty exciting. I am looking forward to that next year. I played Sombra. That was pretty cool. Sombra definitely feels a little bit OP. I suck with Sombra, but I'm not good with like all these fancy mechanics and positioning and aim and having to position and aim and plan ahead. These are all really hard things. But no, it was really cool playing with all of that stuff.
Sombra's going to be the new cancer in Overwatch because everyone will try to play her and they're going to suck so bad with her and she's going to do nothing.
The learning curve for Sombra is going to be ridiculous, and the skill that will be required to play Sombra well is going to be ridiculous
I'll basically say this: like, if you're not at least in Diamond, like at a bare minimum in Diamond, don't play Sombra in competitive. Just don't do it. Like, you'll be doing yourself a huge favor by not doing it. Just because you're going to suck with her, and like, you should at least try to get better with like Tracer or Genji first, who are hard characters to play, but they're still going to be much easier than Sombra.
Yep. But no, it was good, and I am also very happy that they are not releasing the expansion like in 3 days. So ADWCTA and I will have time to prepare.
Yes, this will be so nice. I also want to give a huge shout out to the other podcasts that we met. We met the Golden Wisp guys. I mean, Alex lives in New York, so I hang out with him sometimes here too. But Hunter as well, we met from the Golden Wisp podcast, and also the Angry Chicken, of course. We met Dills, or you met Dills. I hung out with Dills before, and we've also both met Garrett. On like the first day of BlizzCon too, we were watching opening ceremonies, and I turned to my left, and I'm like, I know that guy. Garrett has a very distinctive look with the hair and everything. I'm like, Garrett, that's Garrett. So that was really cool. And if you guys, I'm sure you guys have heard of the Angry Chicken, maybe not the Golden Wisp, but if you haven't, and you care about the general Blizzard scene or like the competitive constructed scene, definitely like check them out. Really great podcasts. And also some of our supporters who came out to meet us at the meet and greet at the tavern. If you guys, you could check out my Twitter. They had like at BlizzCon this epic like recreation of like the Hearthstone tavern. And they like served alcohol and like beer food, and there was like a live band playing the Hearthstone theme on like an endless loop. And people like hung out there and whatever. And like the big people had like real official meet and greets. Like Crip had a meet and greet with like a line that just like kept wrapping around. We were more like, we're gonna be here for 45 minutes at this time. Come hang out. And some people did. And it was really awesome to meet you guys. Anything else? Are we leaving anything else out?
No, it was good. Thanks to everyone who hung out, talked with us. It's always nice to know that we have some actual fans out there, and not everyone is a bot.
Dude, everyone's a bot.
It was good, man.
You didn't think those fans were bots? You just gotta learn to appreciate bots, man. Bots are people too.
Omnix. The Omnic crisis is coming soon.
Okay. For people who are wondering, because this is very unclear and we apologize, if you were tuning in for like the Thursday or Friday night stream, like Hafu helped us. Like we were supposed to stream on Thursday and Friday night from BlizzCon, and Hafu helped us out so much. But the computer and internet connection thing at the hotel just like was not working out, so we couldn't really do it. Which meant Merps had to forfeit his run in the challenge that I, and Ratsma were doing, which means I got the bed. I got the solo bed, and Merps and Ratsma were sleeping together for the entirety of BlizzCon.
Kappa Pride.
There's a lot of stories there that I don't want recorded when I tell it. So we're going to end the podcast right here. It was really fun to meet everybody. Until next week, when we will probably have a whole lot more cards to talk about and an even better sense of the upcoming meta for MSG. This is ADWCTA.
This is Merps. See you guys.
See you guys.
Bye.